Doug, good morning. What did you think last night?
I thought it was better than advertised. I actually, Dan, was at Clemson a couple weeks ago, and Zion's from the area. His stepdad played, I believe, at Clemson, and everybody thought he was going there. And he turns around, he goes to Duke, and you know how it goes when you don't get a guy. Well, he's a great dunker, but there's and it wasn't necessarily Clemson's basketball people, but other people, had things. Well, he didn't play against great competition, and he was great. He was great. He was efficient. He played hard. And then, by the way, they have R.J. Barrett and Cam Reddish, and they played great as well. I think the Kentucky side might actually be more interesting in terms of how bad they were and how ill-prepared they were and how embarrassing their performance was and maybe the lack of adjustments. And maybe that was purposeful. But in terms of Zion Williamson, he was better than advertised. And that's really hard considering the hype.
It's one thing where sometimes you'll find this, and you know this as well as anybody. There's a guy who's great in college, but there's a teammate who will be better in the pros. Right. Do you see that with R.J. Barrett and Zion Williamson? If you had the number one pick right now, I know it's early, who would you take?
Yeah, it's one game early. I'd probably take R.J. Barrett because enough of these guys that have watched enough of these things all tell me. And I do think, remember, this is you have to remember he's going, for the most part, he's going not just against college kids, but against Kentucky, he's going against 18-year-olds as well, and he's going against power forwards and centers. So you have to, what is he in the NBA? Okay, he's going to have to play the four. He's 6'5". With long arms, and he's 285 pounds, which, as I texted you, only Boban weighs more in the NBA. And there's just this fear, like, dude, you can't carry that much weight and play 82 games. And though he's a kind of unstoppable freight train going to the hoop, and you can see those types of dunks with, the empty lane we're playing with in the NBA, you're going to have to do it against better competition. And so that'll be interesting to see how it translates. Right now, I don't think it's really all that close because, we're looking at it as we saw him in one game, and he's going to continue to be dominant at the college level. But I would say R.J. Barrett, because of his versatility, his shot making, his game, the positionless NBA seems like he will translate a little bit better at both ends. Remember, how you guard, people say, like, well, defense doesn't matter. Like, ask somebody in the NBA. If you can't guard, you're just going to get lit up on a nightly basis. But I do think there's an it factor to Zion Williamson. And the fact that in the white-hot spotlight of the first game on national TV against Kentucky, he wasn't good. He was great. And I think he played 23 minutes. I think that's all he played. Like, it wasn't like he played. It wasn't like there was a high volume. It was 13 shots. It's a lot closer than I would have thought if you asked me before last night.
Well, I think also with R.J. Barrett, and we had Dan Dockich on, the analyst for ESPN, and he said there's some James Harden in him. And I went, whoa, wait a minute. So I got Harden at 6'4", and I got R.J. Barrett at 6'9" or whatever, 6'10". And he said, no, his ability to kind of find those spots, to get in between the cracks there. So, I mean, we're heaping a lot of praise on these kids. And we went back and forth, too. When's the last time America embraced Duke?
Ooh, I don't. That's going to be a hard one for people, right? You're like, I'm rooting for Duke. It's so weird.
I know.
It's good because that school never gets a lot of attention in basketball.
Yeah, exactly.
And there's no Dukies on TV, so they're going to have to find somebody to organically promote it. It's a good question. I've been listening to your show all morning. I'm kind of racking my brain. I can't remember. There have been moments. I mean, remember Kyrie only played like 8 games for Duke. There were moments early on before he got hurt where it did feel like we liked that Duke team.
What about Johnny Dawkins? When Johnny Dawkins was there, did we?
Well, yeah, that's before they won. That was when they were the underdog, right?
Oh, okay.
And they were great. When they had Leitner, it was hard. It was a team that was hard to root for, and then they just kind of became a thing, right? And then it wasn't helped by Grayson Allen tripping dudes. That didn't help the reputation, and people just didn't like JJ Redick, and I didn't really get that one. But I think once you start winning, we kind of turn on you. And so I'm sure that's coming for this Duke team at some point in the future.
I mentioned that Dick Vitale sort of inched up to the line to say something critical of, Kansas situation and Arizona situation. He didn't. And maybe it wasn't the right time or place to do it last night. But it feels like,
When is?
Well, I'm wondering that. But it's business as usual here in college basketball. And meanwhile, you got a coach with a player who's not suiting up and, for Kansas, and his assistant coach is embroiled in this controversy, and guys are going to jail for this. And it's like, no, nothing to see here. Like, what is anything going to happen with this, or am I just kind of shouting, into the wilderness?
Well, here's where Kansas has a get out of jail free card. The court found that Kansas was the victim, right? So, the NCAA can go and say, well, this also, actually yesterday was the perfect time for Dick Vitale, as a Hall of Famer, to whatever side he wants to take, he can take on national TV. He's got a lifetime contract there, and he chose to not do so. And so that's who he is. That's his decision. Now, yesterday, it was announced that the courts have given the NCAA now you have all, or the FBI has given, now you have all our documentation, all this stuff. And that's really all the NCAA has ever really wanted is, hey, we don't have subpoena power.
Yeah. We
don't have the power to have wiretaps. You do. And so the FBI has done so much of the dirty work for them. Now, the issue with going after Kansas is the courts found that Kansas was the victim. So it's really hard for the NCAA to turn around and say, well, hey, we think you guys broke NCAA rules and you guys were arranging payments to players.
I think some fireworks were going off there. And let's see if we can get Doug back. He can finish his thought there. Here's something for you. Zion Williamson will appear in 31 nationally televised games this year. The number one pick in the draft, DeAndre Ayton, will appear in 8 nationally televised games. The exposure you get for your brand, it's still great for college basketball to have that platform for these kids. Zion Williamson should be, by all accounts, able to play in the NBA. RJ Barrett should be playing in the NBA. Cam Reddish, but Zion's going to be in 31 nationally televised games this year. Doug is back with us. So you were saying that Kansas is the victim.
Well, no, I didn't say that.
Well, the courts did.
That's what was said. That's what the court said.
Yeah.
So, I think it's really going to be hard for the NCAA to make some case against Kansas and get Bill Self fired if the courts are saying that they're the victim. You know what I mean? That's just a hard one.
Yeah, but Bill Self is not a victim. If it's his staff member, and you got a kid who's sitting out right now because they're sort of waiting to whatever kind of, the only reason why he's not playing is they're worried if they play him and then all of a sudden he's found ineligible, then they lose these games here. But do you think Bill Self should be coaching Kansas right now?
Yes, I do think he should be coaching Kansas.
Okay.
I do.
Do you think that he knew what was going on with paying a player?
Do I think I think he knew guys were getting taken care of, and he didn't want to know. I think that's generally the way it works. The difference is that Patino, it feels like arranged for everything to take place, whereas Self, didn't want to know and just, you guys get it done. However you guys do, whatever you guys do, we're going to recruit the kid, and there's other guys handle that.
Well, it worked for John Wooden.
That would be my guess.
Yeah, it worked for John Wooden. I don't want to know, but boy, I keep getting these great players showing up at UCLA.
Sure, different era, but yes, absolutely. I mean, look, Lou Alcindor was flying home to New York every weekend during his freshman year because he was homesick. And the idea that John Wooden didn't know that back in the day is laughable. Look, what does it say about Mike Krzyzewski, though? Do I think Duke does it generally the right way? I do. But I also so if other people were willing to do whatever it takes to get Zion Williamson, and the last second he changes his mind to go to Duke, was it just because it's Duke? Or was it because, was it because Nike had a hand in it, right? That's anyone with a brain suspects that. And I don't think Mike Krzyzewski is on the phone with these guys arranging these things to get the deals done. I also think a lot of this is there's a lot of hearsay here, right? It's like with your staff. If you ask them how many women they've been with in their life, right? Take it and cut it in thirds, or with McLovin, cut it in eighths, right? That's like college basketball or high school basketball, and what you're getting. Oh, I got paid, right? And you end up getting an eighth of, or didn't get any of what you suspected you were going to get. So there's a lot of hearsay and talk, and a lawyer saying something. But the fact that Curtis Townsend, an assistant at Kansas, is on tape saying, "Hey, we got to do what it takes to get this thing done," that doesn't indict Kansas, but it does make you think, all right, Kansas might have been willing to do some things or arrange some things to be done. But there is no direct link to Bill Self, so I think he skates on it, in addition to the fact that the courts did find him a victim.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I know it goes on. I just think it's right in front of us now, and I don't think anybody cares. I don't. College basketball started. I don't think anybody cares about this whatsoever. It's like, okay, yeah, you got a kid and you got to pay him. All right. But,
Well, I think the thing that's interesting is how little actually goes to any of these kids.
I know.
There's always everybody always has their hands out, and there's these layers, and the kid, most of them, they just want to go and play ball. That's it. They just want to go and play ball, and they just want to be on TV, and they want to wear the good gear, and they want to play for a good coach, and they want to play for a national championship, and they want to go to the NBA. And we're talking a 1%, a top 5% or 1% of the actual kids that play in college. It's a very small percentage that have their hands out, and usually the kids don't have their hands out. It's their parents or their handler.
Thank you, Doug. Great to talk to you again. We appreciate your time as always.
Anytime.
All right, that's Doug Gottlieb.
For more Dan Patrick Show, tune to Audience Channel 239 on DirecTV or download the Dan Patrick Show app.